Good, happy Tuesday evening, February 4, 2020. I'm Riley King, and welcome to the Riley King Newscast, right here on the Riley King Network. We have a lot of news to get to this Tuesday evening, so let's begin. First up, we begin with breaking news. Iowa Democratic Party releases partial caucus results. The political universe has been turned upside down by the breakdown of the Iowa caucuses. Traditionally, the event provides the first concrete tally after months of speculation about the presidential primary. But Monday night's Democratic caucuses ended inconclusively as the state party blamed technology problems for preventing it from reporting results. As of 5 p.m. in Des Moines, Iowa, after a confusing and long day, the Iowa Democratic Party has begun to release results of Monday's caucuses. With 62% of the precincts reporting, Pete Buttigieg is leading with 26.9% of the delegates. Bernie Sanders is in second with 25.1%. Elizabeth Warren is in third with 18.3%, and Joe Biden rounds out the top four with 15.6%. Iowa Democrat Party Chair Troy Price did not say when the remaining 38% of the results would be reported. Sanders, Iowa Democratic Party has been negligent in not getting us timely results. Candidate criticized flubbed caucus process. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9, Adam Sexton.
At Tates, customers will find everything they need for a building project. The brand names you trust to perform. And with a fleet of over 50 delivery vehicles, we deliver when and where our customers need them. Tates Building Products. 9 locations throughout New Hampshire and Massachusetts.
Really great town meetings. And the people of Iowa, as I've said many times, take enormously seriously their responsibility in being the first in the nation to vote. So I think the people of Iowa have done their duty, and unfortunately, I think the Democratic Party here in Iowa has been negligent in not getting us timely results.
Senator, how do you think Troy Price has handled the situation?
Pardon me?
How do you think Troy Price has handled the situation? And have you heard from him, sir, personally?
Jeff has been on the phone with these guys. I have not, honestly. Yeah.
It seems as though Vice President Biden's campaign is trying to cast aspersions on the results. Give the voters the impression that they're not exactly appropriate, that voters shouldn't trust them.
Look, well, I think we should all be disappointed in the inability of the party to come up with timely results. But we are not casting aspersions on the votes that are being counted. There's no excuse for not having results last night. But that doesn't mean to say that the votes, that the totals that come in will be inaccurate. And I think that's an unfair thing to try to do. That's something, tonight was not a good night for the Iowa caucus. I think we can say that. And I think, the problem is you got a very complicated system. So it's one thing to get the popular vote, all right? And it's another thing to get the realignment vote. And that's another thing to determine who won the delegates. It's pretty complicated. And you're asking volunteers all over the state to be able to do that. So, I think this is something that people will probably take a look at.
Some of your concerns on turnout, you talked a lot about
From what to the degree that we have results, we don't know. It appears, what I have heard, is they are somewhat higher than they were in 2016. Not as high, frankly, as I would have liked to have seen. Okay, look, we got to get going. Some of us want to get to New Hampshire.
Did you get any sleep, Senator? Did you sleep at all?
Not enough.
Okay, and there you go on that video. Presidential candidates fled into New Hampshire with Iowa results on hold. 2020 contenders seek to gather votes in final push before primary. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9, Ray Brewer.
New Hampshire primary day, Tuesday, February 11th, is an historic moment. Together, we can
It's on to New Hampshire.
We are going on to New Hampshire.
And now it is on to New Hampshire.
I'm going right from here to New Hampshire.
As you just heard, despite having any results in Iowa, the candidates are turning their sights to the Granite State for a crucial final push for votes. Our Ray Brewer is live at the Manchester-Boston Regional Airport this morning, where candidates have been flying in early this morning, and you've seen many of them already, Ray.
That's right, Aaron. We have, and of course, a week from now, we will already have the first results here in New Hampshire, as there is that midnight voting in Dixville Notch and also two other locations in New Hampshire. The candidates have been streaming back here to the Granite State. The first to arrive was Joe Biden. He didn't take any questions from reporters, but he did say that he felt good. Amy Klobuchar, very upbeat Amy Klobuchar, arriving here about 3:45 this morning here at the Manchester-Boston Regional Airport. She was followed quickly by Andrew Yang, also upbeat about his chances and his showing. And finally then, later this morning, we had Elizabeth Warren arrive. Here's a little bit of what the candidates had to say upon their arrival.
We know that we did incredibly well. We won a bunch of precincts and delegates that places we didn't expect to win. And so we're feeling good.
Even more excited to be here in New Hampshire, where our campaign has a ton of momentum, and we're going to storm the state all week long.
It is good to be in New Hampshire. Our organizers are now leaving Iowa and going to the other places around the country where we are.
And of course, that includes here in New Hampshire, and Elizabeth Warren adding that her campaign is built for the long haul. Reporting live in Manchester, Ray Brewer, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Buttigieg calls for voters to unify around a candidate who can beat Trump. Democrat presidential candidate speaks to New Hampshire as Iowa results remain uncertain. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9, Ray Brewer.
My name is Beatrice Dixon. I'm the founder of the Honey Pot. To have a retailer like Target see you and believe in you is everything. The reason why it's so important for Honey Pot to do well is so the next black girl, she could have a better opportunity. That means a lot to me.
Good afternoon, Sean. Pete Buttigieg, like many of the candidates that made the journey overnight here from New Hampshire, or here to New Hampshire from Iowa, maybe a little jet lagged. He joked with the crowd. He wished them good morning, joking, it is morning, right? Now, Pete Buttigieg was introduced by New Hampshire Representative Annie Custer. And Mayor Pete saying all indications, as Sean just mentioned, that the campaign has done well in Iowa and called upon New Hampshire voters to deliver a similar message in a week. His speech touched on many of the familiar themes, including his call for the country to unite so that President Trump is not reelected. Buttigieg said there are many things that Americans can agree on, such as the need to lower the cost of prescription drugs by allowing Medicare to negotiate drug prices. He added marijuana should be legalized, and it's time to realize that addiction is a medical issue. And he talked about why he is running.
The purpose of the presidency is not the glorification of the president. It is the unification and the empowerment to the American people to get these big things done.
Buttigieg also mentioned the need to get big money out of politics, referencing New Hampshire's Granny D, who walked across the country to draw attention to the issue. In closing, he called his campaign one of hope in these bleak and divided times, urging voters in the famously independent state of New Hampshire to join in the coalition that he is building. Reporting live in Manchester, Ray Brewer, WMUR News Now.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Elizabeth Warren holds town hall in Keene. Let's take a look at that video. From WMUR News 9, Andy Hirschberger.
At Tates, customers will find everything they need for a building project. The brand names you trust to perform. And with a fleet of over 50 delivery vehicles, we deliver when and where our customers need them. Tates Building Products. 9 locations throughout New Hampshire and Massachusetts.
Good to see you. And thank you, Courtney, for the warm introduction. And thank you for telling your story. It's an act of courage, and it's important. It's how we make real change. Thank you, Courtney, everybody. I also want to thank Molly Kelly. She is the best partner anyone could have. Thank you, Molly.
Okay, that is some video from Elizabeth Warren's Town Hall event in Keene today. Democratic presidential hopeful Elizabeth Warren held a town hall in Keene 1 week before the New Hampshire primary. Warren spoke to voters hours after arriving in the state. Amy Cullenbulcher speaks at Get Out the Vote event in Portsmouth. Democratic presidential candidate Amy Cullenbulcher spoke Tuesday afternoon at a Get Out the Vote event in Portsmouth. Cullenbulcher spoke to voters at South Church in Portsmouth. New Hampshire State Police Colonel to retire next month. Colonel Christopher Wagner to retire March 2nd. And here is a photo of Colonel Christopher Wagner retiring. The commander officer of the New Hampshire State Police said Tuesday he is planning to retire next month to spend more time with his family. Colonel Christopher Wagner has spent 25 years with the state police and is in his 4th year as colonel of the division. I have loved every minute of being a New Hampshire trooper, and I am honored to have had the opportunity to serve, Wagner said in a letter to Governor Chris Sununu. It is, however, after careful consideration towards committing additional years of service and in constellation with my family, we have decided that it is time for me to retire from law enforcement and the tremendous family sacrifice that comes along. Wagner said the decision was difficult, but that he looked forward to spending more time with his wife and children. Wagner's retirement is effective March 2nd. The Department of Safety said it anticipates Wagner's years of service and will identify qualified candidates to serve as the next Director of State Police. and all of us here at the Riley King Network will miss Christopher Colonel Wagner. Dover restaurant owner detained in native Lebanon, charged with murder. Here's a photo of that Dover restaurant owner. This man right here owned a restaurant in Dover, New Hampshire, detained in native Lebanon, and is charged with murder. And now let's take a look at your U.S. stock market and see how your U.S. stock market closed for this Tuesday evening. And here's a look at that U.S. stock market for all of you this Tuesday evening. Your Dow Jones Industrial Average closed in the green and went up. Your NASDAQ closed in the green and went up. S&P 500 closed in the green and went up. Gold closed in the green and went up. U.S. oil closed in the red and went down. U.S. 10-year closed flat. Euro/USD closed in the green and went up. And VIX closed in the red and went down. Dow soars more than 400 points till the surge leads NASDAQ to all-time high. Stocks rallied on Tuesday, building on solid gains from the previous session as the market recovers from a steep sell-off that was sparked by worries over the coronavirus. Trump reacts to Iowa chaos as he prepares for State of the Union address. Let's take a listen to that video from ABC News.
President Trump has reacted to the Iowa results this morning as he prepares to deliver his State of the Union address tonight, on the evening before he's expected to be acquitted in the Senate impeachment trial. Our chief White House correspondent, John Carl, has the latest on all of this. Good morning, John.
Good morning, Robin. The Trump camp is positively gleeful about all the problems Democrats are having with the caucus results. Just look at this tweet coming from the Trump campaign. It shows a video from SpongeBob and the tagline, "Live look at the Democratic Party doing quality control." The president himself has already tweeted about the mess in Iowa this morning, saying, quote, "The Democratic caucus is an unmitigated disaster. Nothing works, just like they ran the country." And the lack of a winner, at least not yet, is not the only problem facing the Democrats. The overall turnout was lackluster, only adding up to about the same as 2016 and falling far short of the results of the turnout in 2008 when Barack Obama had his big victory.
A lot of issues there in Iowa. John, let me ask you, what can we expect to hear from the president tonight in the State of the Union address?
The president worked through his speech on teleprompter with his aides yesterday. White House officials say it will be a positive and forward-looking message, essentially the opening chapter of his re-election campaign, touting the success on the economy. Unclear at this point is whether or not he will even mention the impeachment. That will probably be a game-time decision.
We'll see. All right, John, thank you.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. And that does it for this evening edition of the Riley King Newscast, right here on the Riley King Network. I hope you all have a great rest of your Tuesday evening, and I'll see you back here tomorrow for another newscast. And I'll have news report coming up in a little bit. Good night and bye, everyone.